What's up everyone, Darcblade here with the next episode in our Agents of Overwatch series, where we take a look at the heroes in the game, going over their lore, abilities, pros, cons and more. In this episode we're going to have a look at the explosive outlaw known as Junkrat. Junkrat, also known as Jameson Fawkes, was one of the Australian outback victims of the Australian Omnium. With the Omnix Omnium destroyed, the outback landscape was forever changed. It became an irradiated, desolate wasteland. However, there were some humans who survived the devastation. Junkrat was one of them. The survivors called themselves Junkers, and they survived by scavenging the husks of the wrecked Omnium. The Junkers themselves were mostly a lawless, cutthroat society. This was in part thanks to the lingering radiation that affected those nearby. Junkrat developed a kind of madness as a result. He developed an obsession with explosions, making him an ideal choice for missions that involved explosives. Junkrat, as a person, loves chaos and destruction, but as a result of his past, has developed a very low opinion of Omnics, as he believes they cannot be trusted. Junkrat came to fame when he stumbled across an extremely valuable secret in the bones of the Australian Omnium. Although few know the nature of what Junkrat discovered, he was nonetheless pursued by gangs and bounty hunters as a result of his discovery. This was until he made a deal with another Junker known as Roadhog. Roadhog is a ruthless killer, but grudgingly agreed to be Junkrat's bodyguard in exchange for 50% of all spoils. With Roadhog hired, Junkrat left the outback and embarked upon a worldwide crime spree. The duo left nothing but havoc in their wake. From Sydney, Australia to Kings Row in the UK, they had a creed of no job too big, no score too small. As a result, they have mounted up untold millions in property damage around the world. Junkrat and Roadhog have attempted to go legit, but they nonetheless prefer their criminal approach to business. Now moving on to look at the weapons and ability Junkrat wields. Junkrat is a 2-star difficulty defense hero. He has 200 health, average movement speed, and despite having a height of 6'5", is an average target size, thanks to him being hunched over. Junkrat's primary weapon is his frag launcher. This custom grenade launcher throws small bombs at Junkrat's targets. They are classed as an arcing splash damage projectile, meaning that the grenades have some weight to them and will drop off after a certain distance. With that in mind, these are slow, heavy projectiles, meaning that if you want them to go far, you need to aim higher so that they can hit the intended location. Also, being slow moving, they can be easy to avoid in open areas by enemies. They travel at 17.5 meters per second. The damage from one frag grenade can deal 120 damage in total if Junkrat is able to land a direct hit with it. Failing that, the damage will drop off depending on the target's distance from the explosion. The grenade acts like a bouncing ball and will explode after 3 bounces if no target is hit directly, unlike a grenade on a timer. Be aware though that Junkrat can take damage himself from the frag launcher's grenades. Not enough to kill him unless he's on very low health. The blast radius for one of the grenades is 2 meters. Due to the nature of the frag launcher, it can be hard to be accurate. It is normally optimal to spam your little grenades into areas enemies may be coming from, especially choke points, bombarding them with artillery style gameplay. With this in mind, the small 5 grenade clip is not normally an issue thanks to the 1.66 second rate of fire and the 1.5 second reload animation. It is always optimal to rain down as much explosions down on your foes with the frag launcher, but firing wildly can result in ineffective damage output. Instead, learn the maps and where choke points are, and fire your bouncing death balls in those directions. Junkrat's first ability is his concussive mine. When you press the ability button, Junkrat will throw out a large mine a short distance in front of him. The mine itself is a heavy arcing projectile, so to get any distance on the mine you need to aim really high. Once thrown, Junkrat will have the option to press the ability button again to activate it. Once detonated, it will deal 120 damage over a 3-meter radius. The explosion will also knock back foes that are not killed by the mine, which can disrupt enemies or better yet, knock them off of ledges. Once placed or thrown, the concussive mine will take 8 seconds to cool down before using it again. However, it will not disappear until it's detonated, replaced or destroyed. It comes with 100 health should the enemies spot the mine and wish to destroy it. You can tell you have your concussive mine active via the yellow arrow above the ability button on a player's HUD. This means that you can potentially dish out 2 concussive mines in quick succession as long as the first one is in a well placed area. Concussion mines can really be used in one of 3 ways. The first is a trap, setting it up in key locations in expectation of enemies going in that direction. The trap method also works exceedingly well in tandem with Junkrat's second ability, Still Trap, but we will cover that in a minute. The second method is to use it as a short range, heavy damage dealing grenade. When in a brawl and all hell is breaking loose, there are foes close by, it can then sometimes be optimal to just launch the concussion mine at foes close by to dish out large amounts of damage without having to rely on your frag launcher to get direct hits. This can also tie into the third method, which is mobility. The concussion mine does not damage Junkrat, but instead will launch him high into the air at a decent speed. With this, Junkrat can get into places the enemy would not expect him to be. Also in fights, it can help him retreat to safety if needed. Of course, there are pros and cons to all of these concussion mine methods, and choosing what is right depends on the map, if you're attacking or defending, and your playstyle. Junkrat's second ability is his Still Trap. When activated, Junkrat will throw out a Still Bear Trap, which will catch any foes foolish enough to walk into it. Like with the concussion mine, it will last until it's destroyed, again it has 100 health, activated by an enemy, or redeployed by Junkrat. Like his first ability, Junkrat will be able to tell if he has a current Still Trap active via the yellow arrow above the ability in the player's HUD. If an enemy does step into the trap, they will be stunned for 1 second and rooted in place for 3 seconds. Even though they are rooted, they can still shoot back or use abilities to save themselves. Enemies trapped by the Still Trap will take 80 damage, meaning that if the Still Trap is combined with the concussion mine, it can kill any 200 health hero in the game. This can be done thanks to the fact that Junkrat can see on the map through walls where his trap is, when it is triggered, or even when a foe has destroyed it. This indicator can also be a great tool for keeping an eye on approaching enemies. By putting it in locations a flanker may attack from, you can get an indicator of when they are approaching, even if the trap is destroyed. Alas though, the Still Trap comes with a 10-second cooldown, but this starts as soon as Junkrat places the first trap down. Junkrat has one achievement and trophy tied to both Still Trap and Concussion Mine. It's called Mine Like a Still Trap, and requires a player to knock an enemy into your Still Trap using a concussion mine in quick or competitive play. This comes with a bit of luck, or if you're struggling, I found that putting the mine slightly away from the Still Trap in a choke point can also lead to this achievement. Junkrat comes with a passive ability known as Total Mayhem. This punishes Junkrat's enemies should they take him out. Once Junkrat's health drops to 0, he will drop 6 grenades at his feet, dealing 50 damage per grenade, making for a potential total of 300 damage for enemies who take Junkrat out at close range. Of course, they have to be careless enough to walk over his body, and eventually players will learn this trick one way or another. But it can be a nice bonus should a close combat brawl occur and Junkrat is involved but dies. Junkrat's ultimate ability is his explosive Riptire. Once activated, Junkrat will pull out a motorized explosive tire, rev it up like a lawnmower and let it fly towards enemies. You will be able to tell when Junkrat has used the Riptire by him announcing,
"Fire in the hole!"
or
"Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines!"
if an ally Junkrat uses their ultimate. The Riptire though is not automatic. It is controlled by the player, so they can steer it into positions to deal a lot of damage. However, this leaves Junkrat immobile and vulnerable to attacks, so be sure to use the Riptire while putting Junkrat in a safe place. Once the Riptire is active, you will have 10 seconds to steer it. It will run until the timer runs out, is detonated, or destroyed by enemies. Be aware that like Junkrat's other abilities, the Riptire has 100 health, so it can be taken out pretty easy. Once the Riptire is in a good position, the player can detonate it manually, causing an explosion 10 meters in radius and dealing up to 600 damage at the center of the explosion. This can also knock back enemies who are not killed by the tire. There are not a lot of counters to this ult due to the massive single hit it delivers. The best option to try to counter it is to try to destroy it before it explodes. The tire itself is also fast moving at 10 meters per second. It can also scale vertical surfaces if a player holds the jump button when near them. The biggest downside of the Riptire is that it is loud and easy to detect with sound. Lastly, due to the nature of Junkrat's weaponry, he can also take damage from the Riptire, even to the point where he can kill himself with it. Junkrat has one achievement and trophy tied to Riptire. It's called Roadkill and requires players to get 4 kills in a single Riptire use in quick or competitive play. This can be tricky and requires a little luck, as most players split up when they hear the Riptire approaching. With that in mind, if the Riptire is used in tandem with Zarya's Graviton Surge or other crowd controlling ults, it can help in getting this achievement. Now, while every hero can take on every other hero in the game, there are some matchups that can clearly be in a certain hero's favour. Junkrat is an artillery area denial hero. With that in mind, he has an easier time protecting flanks and spamming damage into choke points. This, coupled with his high damage, can cause issues for low health flankers such as Tracer or Sombra. His damage can also burn through slow moving tanks such as Reinhardt, as he can land most of his frag grenades on this hulking target, even more when he has his shield up. Finally, Junkrat can be used to take out stationary position targets like Torbjorn and Symmetra along with their turrets. On the flip side though, Junkrat can be countered by foes who can keep their distance from him. Pharah can easily keep out of harm's way while raining down death on Junkrat. The same goes for Widowmaker and Hanzo thanks to their long range capabilities. Genji is one of the rare flankers who can avoid most of Junkrat's tricks thanks to his mobility and deflection ability. Lastly, Zarya can really benefit from an enemy Junkrat, thanks to the fact that she can easily generate energy from a Junkrat who is just spamming grenades. She can also save herself and one teammate from a Riptire detonation thanks to the use of her barrier shields. Of course, a player's skill should always be taken into account. Just because a hero should easily be better than another hero on paper doesn't mean that will always be the case during a match. Now moving on to the pros and cons. The pros for Junkrat are as follows. He can deal high amounts of damage, he can provide a team area denial, he has crowd controlling abilities, and has a high damage dealing ult. However, his cons are that he can damage or even kill himself, and his damage can be potentially unreliable. The design for Junkrat has clearly come from post-apocalyptic influences. The Mad Max franchise springs to mind when we look at both Junkrat and Roadhog, from their attire to the fact that they're Australian. Junkrat also shares the name with Guy Fawkes, who failed to assassinate King James of England and Scotland in the 1600s via explosives. Junkrat's alternative outfits, the Jester and the Scarecrow, could be also inspired by the Batman villains, the Joker and the Scarecrow. Overall, Junkrat is a defense hero best used as an area denial hero. Yes, he can be a decent source of damage, but if this damage does not lead to kills, then it's just going to give the enemy team ultimate charge. One key to Junkrat is to master the frag launcher projectiles. If you are able to land and secure kills with Junkrat's primary weapon, you will be providing a great service to your team. Failing this though, preventing an enemy from advancing, normally thanks to a hell grenades, traps and mines, can also come in handy. Blocking off flanking routes can save your team hassle, either via the steel trap or steel trap concussion mine combo. Either way, if you are communicating with your team, you can warn them that the enemy may have flankers or even their whole team is flanking. In the heat of battle, you can also try to bait foes into your steel traps for easy kills. The concussion mine has some great versatility and can come in handy in many situations, from damage dealing to Junkrat's own survival. As for the Riptire, this can be a great source of destruction for your enemy, or failing to get any kills can still cause your enemy to falter and retreat a little. Whilst Junkrat can be used on attack, his abilities and tools come in far more useful when used on defense. Just try not to get yourself killed when using this explosive hero. Anyway, I've been Darcblade, bringing you my Agents of Overwatch guide to Junkrat. Hope you enjoyed the video, thanks for watching, subscribe and like for more.
Play of the match.
Get ready for a shock!